Who's this ref? Do you know, John?
I should know. He was at the Leonard. Let me find out.
Hello. Testing, 1, 2. You got me well here?
Jimmy Condon.
Boxing fans, here we go. This first contest of the evening is scheduled for 8 rounds of boxing in the heavyweight division. Your referee, James Condon. Introducing first, in the corner to my right, the blue corner from Olathe, Kansas. He weighed in this evening at a fighting 226 pounds with a ring record of 17-10 with 15 KOs, wearing the black trunks trimmed with white. A big Garden State welcome for Derrick, Roddy. Roddy. His opponent from Motown, Detroit, Michigan. With a ring record of 11-2 with 7 big knockouts. He weighed in this evening at a fighting 235 pounds wearing the all black trunks. Let's welcome Derrick Banks. Derrick Banks, 8 rounds.
Gentlemen, you were given your instructions prior to this evening's bout. Any questions? I caution you again, protect yourself at all times. Good luck. May the best man win. Touch gloves.
All right. Take a look there. That's former world champion Buddy McGirt tonight in the corner with Derrick Banks. Banks training in New York with the former world champion. Also seconded by Miguel Diaz. Just got back from Paris, working a great job on the cuts of Stevie Johnston and, of course, Dick Wood. Roddy coming in tonight, 17-10 record, 15 knockouts. Has a tendency to go down early, though. Keep your eyes open. Banks 11-2, 7 knockouts. His last fight back in October, he got off the floor in England to beat Yuri Yelestrado, the Russian fighter. 10-round decision, the first time Banks went the distance. And it showed me a lot, John, to see Banks get up off the floor. I was at that fight in London.
Always a good sign from a fighter. And with Derrick Roddy, one of the keys is, does he have his legs? Always a concern.
Well, getting up off the floor is his middle name. As we're scheduled for 8 here, we've seen Roddy get off the floor to knock out Ricardo Kennedy and Nelson Adams. We saw him drop Ahmad Abdin before losing himself. His last fight, though, he lost a 10-round. He's lost a pair of 10-round decisions in his last 2 fights. He lost Everett Bigfoot Martin this past January. And to James Waring back on the explosion in November, he lost a 10-round decision. He's got a 4-fight losing streak that he's looking to break here tonight. And Banks, his only 2 losses came on a cut to Ricardo Kennedy back in September of '95 and his pro debut fight back in May of '90 to Roy Bedwell. So interesting matchup here. Both fighters need a win. Roddy to break a losing streak, Banks to move possibly into the next level of heavyweight, something he's been trying to break into as we're just about halfway gone here in round number 1, scheduled for 8.
Well, for Derrick Banks, the challenge here is to get inside that long jab of Roddy. And so far, he's been able to do that. Got hit with a left hook there, and it was called a shove.
Big height advantage for Derrick Roddy. Almost 6'6", but only weighed in today at 226 pounds. Derrick Banks at 6 foot even has a 9-pound weight advantage at 235. Nice body shot drops in by Roddy.
It's a couple of times we've seen Roddy go to the body and stop Banks in his tracks.
That's a new move for Roddy.
Not really an inside fighter, particularly with that long, slender frame of his. Likes to work behind the jab. But he's letting Banks get off first, Arnie.
Interesting, Banks would come in at 235, 8 pounds over what he weighed in England for the Yelestrado fight. This matches his career high.
Derrick Roddy should not be allowing the smaller man to out-jab him. For some reason, Roddy is waiting to get off. And, of course, Banks is showing him some movement. mean, he's not a stationary target. He's going left to right, right to left.
Roddy has looked a little lethargic in his last couple of fights. He had the same problem in the Waring fight. Waring out jabbed him for the first 7 rounds, put a bunch of rounds in the bank, and Roddy never really recovered. As we come here to the end of round number 1, fairly decent paced first round for both fighters, scheduled for 8. Nice right, drops in at the belt. Look at Dwight Pratchett there in the corner of Derrick Roddy, trying to kickstart his career again. Every time Roddy gets written off, they think, you know, he was written off before, John, and he came back with those big wins over Nelson Adams and Ricardo Kennedy, and then he drops 4 straight.
He's been jump-started more than my '62 Corvair.
Derrick Banks, new face of the tonight. Buddy McGirt.
One guy you'd like to have in your corner, it's Buddy McGirt. You think he knows a little bit about the fight game?
Just
a real pro.
As the expression goes, forgotten more than probably everybody in this arena knows. Again, round number 2 of a scheduled 8-rounder. That's Derrick Roddy, 6'6", black shorts with the multicolored stripe. Derrick Banks in the solid black. Fairly fast-paced first round. Roddy uncharacteristically going to the body, and Banks uncharacteristically beating Roddy to the jab. Tough round to score, John.
Well, I gave it to Banks. I thought he really controlled the tempo of that first round, particularly with the jab, which you see him utilizing here immediately in the second round.
Saw it the same way, but very close. Could have gone. And there goes Banks downstairs.
I mean, he's just beating Derrick Roddy to the punch, plain and simple. You know, a lot of times when you're in Derrick Roddy's position, where he's lost 4 fights in a row, he's obviously become a trial horse at age 29, you start getting that mentality. And he's trying that short right uppercut, Roddy is. That was a glancing blow off Derrick Banks' chest.
Nice slipping in there by Banks. My only criticism of Banks, which is purely a physical one at this point, I have no evidence that it's hurting his performance, is I think he's about 5 pounds overweight.
I would say at least. He looks soft. Derrick Roddy is throwing those hard right hands, but Banks is showing some good movement, head and foot, and Roddy's yet to hit the target in a significant fashion.
Derrick Roddy started his career back in August of '92 with a TKO win over Steve Peters in 3 rounds. And Banks actually started his career in '90, took 2 years off, came back in '92, took another 2 years off, and now has been going fairly steady since July of '94, where he beat Jonathan Grant in a 4-round decision.
And like some fighters, Derrick Roddy began his boxing career in prison back in the late 1980s. He was telling me recently that they used to bet for jelly rolls behind the bars when they would be boxing. I guess that's more than a consolation prize when you're in prison, isn't it?
It's like Potato Pie Bolden. He calls his money his jelly roll. Oh, Roddy looked like he was like, couldn't tell if he was off balance. He got rocked, and Banks takes this opportunity to jump on him as he's tying up.
Well, he hit Banks with a left hook, and then he was off balance. He's throwing that uppercut from the outside. He should be stepping inside with it. A right hand by Banks.
From the Buster Douglas school of throwing uppercuts. Yeah. Whether Banks now can be from the Evander Holyfield school of taking advantage of it when it's thrown from the outside. As we got 15 seconds to go. Round number 2 of the scheduled 8-rounder. I'm Arnie Tokyo Rosenthal along with John.
Good straight right hand by Banks, Arnie. Lead right hand.
And he drops a left hook in for good measure as well. We come to the end of round number 2. A good round for Derrick Banks. Dwight Pratchett right in the face of Derrick Roddy as he comes back to the corner. Not liking what he saw. Buddy McGirt's got to be a little happier with what he's seeing from Derrick Banks thus far. John, nice combinations dropping in there near the end of round number 2.
Well, I think what Dwight Pratchett is telling Roddy is that he's throwing his punches from too far. He's telegraphing and looping his punches from the outside, and Derrick Banks is seeing the punches coming. So he's able to deflect them or move out of the way. And really, Derrick Roddy is not using that long pole of his, the jab, as his primary weapon to keep Banks off of him.
And a big problem in the past has always been that he's had problems keeping guys off him. We take a look at action here at the end of round number 2. And here's where Roddy gets off balance trying to throw those shots.
Arnie. But that's 2 rounds in the bank for Mr. Banks, according to our scorecards, I think.
Well, where does it say color commentator gets a laugh? I don't see that in the script. It says nothing about color commentator drops a joke in at the beginning of round number 3.
I had to beat you to the punch. Hey, you know, we said earlier in the first round, Arnie, that the key thing with Derrick Roddy is, does he have his pins underneath him? And already we're seeing those legs get wide. He looks a little wobbly, a little unsteady. And Derrick Banks is going to take advantage of that, particularly by going to the body.
Banks, good punching power, 7 knockouts in his 11 wins. Of course, Roddy, devastating punching power when he lands, 15 in his 17. But the beard, very suspect. Not suspect, it's just not good. He's been knocked out 6 times. Let's call it the way it is. Banks stopped that one time on cuts by Ricardo Kennedy.
There's a 1-2 by Roddy, but Banks kind of leaned out and took some of the steam away off that punch.
One thing Roddy's got going for him, though, John, is that Roddy, in his last 2 fights, has gone the full 10-round distance, although he lost decisions. Derrick Banks did look incredibly fatigued at the end of his first 10 rounds this past October and hasn't fought since then.
Good question. So will his gas tank run dry at some point in this fight? Because clearly he's the aggressor in this fight through 2.5 rounds.
And except for that 110-rounder, he had never been past 4. So Roddy's certainly the better distance runner here, as we're halfway gone, more than halfway gone here in round number 3.
And is Banks going to be able to keep up with his side-to-side movement that is giving Derrick Roddy problems? He's using the entire ring, giving Roddy a very different look.
Nice body work there by Roddy, which was working nicely for him in the first round, and a different look for him, and abandoned it shortly halfway through the first round. Banks makes some pay for standing flat-footed inside.
A little bit of blood, it looks like, Arnie, coming from Banks' mouth after that last exchange. And you see Roddy turn him on the ropes. A good move, but he couldn't make him pay. Now, Banks does not want to be along those ropes. And Banks has gone away from the jab a little bit. That was working for him the first 2 rounds. The jab was keeping Roddy at bay.
Banks goes southpaw, sign that he may be getting tired. And I'm telling you, the fatigue and that extra 8 pounds may be...
You're right, Arnie. His mouth is open, and he's gasping for a little bit of air here. We're only in the 3rd round.
And I know the thing I don't understand, John, is he's been back in New York training with McGirt. He's been in the gym, didn't take this fight on short notice. And we're coming to the end of round number 3. Derrick Banks looking a little winded. And Derrick Roddy having a fairly decent 3rd round. Back in the corner, White Ratchet probably a little happier with what he saw there. And let's take a look here at Derrick Banks. See just how tired he is. And as you mentioned, a little blood coming from the mouth of Banks. Fortunately, he's got Miguel Diaz in his corner working cuts. And again, what a fantastic job he did save Stevie Johnson. Won Stevie Johnson a world title this past Saturday.
Hey, Derrick Banks could not have a better corner right now. He's got to listen to that corner, particularly Buddy McGirt. And I tell you what, that lateral movement has taken out some of the steam off Derrick Banks. He clearly is winded going here into the 4th round.
As we begin the 4th round here of a scheduled 8 round, I want to remember to say hello to our friends watching us tonight on the USSB Satellite Network. Catching Heavyweight Explosion live. Banks starting to get that jab working for him again.
And he's got his hands up a little bit higher. I think Buddy jumped on him about that. Fighters tend to get very lazy in the ring. They have to be constantly reminded about the fundamentals of the sport. Keeping your hands up is the first thing. You got to defend yourself. Right hand there by Roddy. a little bit of elbow from Banks.
Roddy's in the black short with the multicolored stripe. That's Banks with the black shorts that says Banks across the front.
Boy, Arnie, Roddy just keeps missing with that right hand. You got to wonder what's going to happen if he ever connects with it.
And take a look where Banks keeps his left. Roddy would get a little bit more brazen.
He keeps it low. Roddy at this point should be jabbing. He's waiting. It's a little bit of a cat and mouse game, and you see.
Oh, and Banks dropped a big right in over the top on Roddy.
What he's doing, Arnie, is he is feinting him, giving him shoulder feints, waiting for Roddy to commit. That time he just threw a lead right hand that you referred to. But Banks' legs, they don't look real strong either. Let me tell you, when he throws some of those shots, he is off balance. You see him using the ropes. That's clearly a sign that a fighter needs help with his legs.
As we mentioned, fatigue has been a problem. He's carrying around possibly 8 to 10 pounds more than he should have on a fight that he didn't take on short notice, so he must have really come down from a much higher weight.
I'd like to see Roddy start using those punches to the body, start to get Banks to drop those hands down there before he throws that right hand. He's got to set it up a little bit better.
Also, what I'm going to be interested to see, Banks looked like he got stunned a little bit there, Roddy. Banks has been training up until this fight in Colorado Springs and had the advantage of coming down to the thicker air and training in altitude. This is the first time he's trained down in New York with Buddy McGirt. I wonder if he's not feeling that advantage that he's had in the past.
Yeah, Banks is getting sloppy here. Sometimes you see him throwing a punch off the wrong foot.
We got 30 seconds to go in round number 4. Scheduled for 8 no knockdowns thus far in the fight. Referee Jimmy Condon, very inconspicuous, hasn't had a lot of jamming to do here. Fighters mostly fighting on the outside, not a lot of inside fighting this far. Big overhand right again. You said if that happens to land, and the uppercut lands though by Roddy, and that shook Banks. Right above us right now, Banks bouncing off the ropes. We come near the end of round 4. Another strong round for Roddy, who's finishing big here on the tiring Banks. Back in the corner with Derrick Banks, and I got to tell you, John, Roddy bent his knees a little bit and came from downstairs. What Derrick Banks with that uppercut. And he's breathing very heavily.
Well, when he went to the ropes, that was playing right into Derrick Roddy's hands, and Derrick Roddy was able to let both hands go and catch Banks.
Give me that bit. Give me that bit. No. Yeah. This is why I'm short.
Take a look at action here from the end of round number 4. Keep an eye out. Let's see if we're going to spot this uppercut. I think this is after he'd already been hit with the uppercut, and he was above us over here laying on the ropes.
It's kind of a slapping punches there from Roddy. Not really.
That was the tail end after he had landed the uppercut. We begin round number 5, the end of 4. Very strong for Derrick Roddy. Landed an uppercut. Didn't have enough time, though, to really take advantage of it. Had Derrick Banks backing up. Banks has looked fatigued in round number 3 and 4, allowing Roddy to get back into this fight after a very fast first 2 rounds for Banks. No knockdowns thus far in the fight.
I think we got an even fight here on our hands.
I was going to ask you, John, how have you got it? Even?
I've got it even.
First 2 rounds for Roddy, second 2 for Banks, which is how I see it. Excuse me, the other way around. First 2 for Banks, second 2 for Roddy. A nice overhand right. Lands by Banks.
And he followed it up with a body shot. And Roddy holding on a little bit there. Roddy looked a little arm fatigued. This is the point in the fight when fighters kind of have to suck it up and get over that psychological hurdle that they're fatigued. A lot of times they talk themselves into it.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is Roddy was on the floor, both in winning and losing situations, for 6 fights in a row from June of '95 through the Ahmad Abdin fight, the Larry Donald fight in August of '96, and he's managed to stay off the floor for his last 2 fights and go to 10-round distance. He might be developing a beard.
Banks is going back to something he used the first 2 rounds, which is the jab to get his power punches off. He's throwing the lead right hand also, but he's controlling this round with his jab. And he got away from that in rounds 3 and 4. Doubled up on it there.
And he's using it to work his way in. as opposed to, oh, nice left hook drops in.
Yeah, some of those punches are a little bit deflected. They're not always scoring, but depending on where you're sitting ringside as a judge, you may give credit to Banks for that punch.
Well, whether you do or you don't, he's much busier right now than Derrick Roddy is, who had a very good third and fourth round. And second win coming here now for Derrick Banks.
People always wonder what constitutes a score. How do judges score a fight? Well, the first thing is effective punches, and that's punches that land solidly and cleanly, not punches that are merely thrown and partially deflected. Effective aggressiveness in the ring. Who is controlling the action? Ring generalship and good defense.
Well, Banks' jab really starting to work now. Banks has a big welt under his left eye. Drops a nice left hook in there.
Yep, he's finding the mark with that left hook as Roddy is dropping his right hand.
Still, keep in mind, it's only the second time Derrick Banks has been into the 5th round in his professional career, which is now in his 14th fight.
Well, Banks is controlling this round with that stick. The left hand is keeping Derrick Roddy at bay. And you see Roddy kind of unable to solve and then kind of lunging forward with that right hand, but he continues to throw it over Banks.
Come to the end of round number 5. Very strong for Derrick Banks. Appears to be getting a second win as he slips nicely past Roddy's right hand. Miguel Diaz going to work on that welt under the left eye of Banks.
You see how he's pushing with the inswell device away from the injury. Pushes it out.
It looks like he busted it open, so he's taking away. Got some blood coming out of it now.
That inswell device is a cold piece of metal that the trainers use to try to keep down the swelling as much as possible. In recent years, we've even seen some experimentation with a full mask.
Howie Albert's got a great double look. He saved the fight for Jeff Wood against Ricardo Kennedy last year. Interesting note, get ready for round number 6. It's named after Dr. N. Swell. It's not because of the word swell. Very close fight. We're scheduled for 8 as we begin round number 6. Derrick Banks getting a second win in round number 5. Really controlling the jab. Roddy seemed totally perplexed by something that should be able to defend rather easily. A man with a short reach, and Banks jabbing him at will. Double, triple jabs, and then he hooked off the jab near the end of the round.
Well, Roddy is negating his own height and reach advantage by allowing Banks first to jab and then to move inside and go to the body. He's repeatedly getting hit with the left hook. And that's a function of dropping the right hand. A little bit more head movement. I think Buddy McGirt's been on Banks about that too. You gotta move your head a little bit. You cannot be a stationary target. Of course, Derrick Roddy with that tall frame, he is an inviting target. Even for a smaller fighter, he's there and you see him not moving his head.
Banks came in the heavier of the two today, 235.5, equaling his highest weight in his professional career. And Roddy, even though he's 6'6", only weighed 226 pounds, tall and lanky as the expression goes, came in with a 17-10 record, 15 big knockouts. Banks 11-2, 7 KOs.
You know, Arnie, I don't know, but it looks like to me that Roddy is loading up looking for that one home run punch, and that is not going to win the fight against a guy like Banks, who's just a busier fighter here tonight. He's got to take this fight. He's got to get. And there was the right hand.
There was the home run
cracked him good.
He just
a little bit of Henry Aaron on that one.
And he just gave. I mean, he has to be wondering. And he just drops a nice right uppercut in on Banks. And the uppercut is what hurt Banks.
Well, Banks
at the end of the 4th round.
Exactly. And Banks again has gone away from the jab a little bit here. And I think he's going to hear from Buddy McGirt when he gets back to the corner.
A little over a minute to go here in round number 6, and Roddy turning the tide of the fight one more time. Still looking for that big home
right
run
hand
shot.
Was a little bit short. Caught him across the kisser, but it was short. You know, it's almost as if, Arnie, these guys are alternating rounds when they're a little bit fatigued. Banks comes on. When Roddy's a little fatigued, he allows the other fighter to get into the fight and vice versa.
One thing Roddy's got to be wondering now, though, is Banks, and we've both seen Roddy plenty. Banks has taken Roddy's best shot, and he's still standing.
No question.
Oh, and
Is there a headbutt in there?
Headbutt, and Roddy Looks like he might have a small cut now over the bridge of the nose.
Banks complaining as if to say Roddy caused the butt. And of course, Banks has that swelling under the left eye, and that's a concern to a fighter. You know, all fighters react differently to injuries in the ring. Right and left. He keeps throwing that lead right hand. Derrick Roddy's got to get his hands up and get that jab moving.
As we come to the close of round number 6, just when Roddy was getting started, that headbutt changed the flow. Another tough round to score, John. You know,
that's a very close.
And I copped out and called the round even, strictly because Roddy was really controlling the pace, and that little headbutt came in. Banks did enough, I think, to pull the round even. But
I gave it to Roddy, but a very close nod. You could score it even and not have a lot of argument when you
give it to Banks, too. We're going to try to take a look now at that action from round number 6 and see if we can pick up on the headbutt and look for Banks's head to land right on Roddy's nose, and there it is. Oh, and Roddy right away, you can see, well, really distressed. And
Banks didn't have anything to complain about there. He led with his noggin.
Coming into the last quarter of an 8-round fight. We're scheduled for 8. This is round number 7.
This is anybody's fight, Arnie.
Right now, after having scored the 6th round even, I have Banks up by 1 point. John Saraceno, how you have it?
Even fight. Good short uppercut by Banks on the inside there. He's really waged this fight, though, Arnie, from the outside with the jab, as we've said repeatedly. And when you let a shorter guy take your jab away and impose his jab on you, you're doing something wrong. And that's what Derrick Roddy, the biggest thing he's battled tonight is the battle of the jab. And he has lost that fight.
Between rounds, Miguel Diaz, probably the top cut man in the business today, working on that left eye of Derrick Banks.
And Derrick Banks can hit Roddy with the jab at will. One of the reasons is because Derrick Roddy is not moving his head. It's always in the same location. Watch him punch up at it. There it goes. You just see what he's doing. Good left hand, a hybrid uppercut, left hook by Banks.
The amazing thing with Roddy is he stands there to take the double jab, too. He doesn't move away. He lets you land the double, he lets you land the hook off the jab. It's a little more than a minute gone by here in round number 7. There's been no knockdowns thus far in the fight, which for a Roddy fight is quite incredible, but he's in a 2-fight streak of not getting knocked down.
It also seemed like Banks got that second win, Arnie, somewhere in the last round or 2. He's got that win back,
round 5,
and he's taking it to Derrick Roddy.
He took rounds 3 and 4 off, was very fatigued, and now he's come out looking very good in rounds 5 and 6. Certainly has taken the first half of round number 7 unofficially on our scorecard. Those are the cards belonging to myself, Sophia and John Saraceno here on Heavyweight Explosion. Hope you're enjoying our show. Very good job by Jimmy Condon. Hasn't had a darn thing in this fight, our referee.
And that's what you want. You want a referee that is, let's say, inconspicuous.
Banks again, double jab. Roddy standing there, let them do it. Followed by right lead, left hook.
That right lead and the left hook eating him up alive, Arnie. Derrick Roddy still can win this fight, but he's got to come on strong at the end of the 7th round, and he's got to win the 8th round.
Roddy complaining again about a headbutt on the inside.
Derrick Banks with that swollen left eye showing no ill effects. He continues to press the fight.
Under 30 seconds to go in the 7th round. That's Banks in the black shorts. Derrick Roddy, 6'6" in the black with the multicolored stripes.
And Dwight Pratchett, I think he would like to tie a string around the right hand of Roddy, pull it up around his neck to keep that right hand up.
And when it has landed, it's been effective, and the right uppercut been a good punch for Roddy in this fight as well. As we come to the end, round 7, we'll be back with the 8th and final round. Banks back to his corner, and Miguel Diaz goes right to work again on that eye, and he's done a great job keeping that eye in the fight. Banks dropping his head on the outside of the ropes there.
Boy, they're really working on the right eyebrow of Derrick Banks. It has really swelled up, not in a bad area, though. I don't think it's going to impede his sight. Of more concern would be the left eye.
Between the left eye and the right eye at this point. We're going to take a look at action from round number 7. Take a look at that right hand lead followed by that left hook.
And a right hand to finish it up.
And Roddy just has no lateral motion.
Well, his legs,
doesn't go from side to side at all.
He's got to conserve his legs.
And I hope Pratchett's telling him that he needs a knockout to win this. 8th and final round. Derrick Banks, he's in the black shorts. Derrick Roddy, black with the multicolored. No knockdowns thus far in the fight. Banks getting a second win in round number 5. Pretty much been Banks since then. John Saraceno, how you see the fight?
I've got Banks ahead, Arnie, 67-66. But he can't afford to sit on this lead by any means, if indeed he has a lead.
Unofficially.
Banks has got to go with what brought him here thus far. There's the lead right hand again. He's got to jab and move. But again, you don't see Banks playing it safe. And Buddy McGirt in the corner telling Banks, come on, keep punching.
And I've got Banks ahead 68-66.
I don't have a quarrel with that either. I think it's pretty clear that Banks has basically controlled most of the fight, whatever the score is. Well, Banks, he's throwing some awkward angles. At times, he's practically backhanding Roddy with the right hand.
Only the second time in a 14-fight career that Banks has been past 4 rounds. Roddy's been 10 in his last 2 fights.
So you know he can go the distance.
Banks starting to breathe through his mouth now and wanting to stay on the outside, not mix it up with the very dangerous Roddy, but then drops a left hook in, and Roddy keeps dropping that right hand, John.
Hey, let's give Derrick Banks credit. You know, swollen left eye, badly cut above the right eye. He was fatigued a little bit midway through the fight. A guy who has not gone a lot of rounds in fights, but he knows this is a good fight for him. A good win to rack up on his record, despite the fact that Derrick Roddy has lost his last 4 fights. Roddy trying to pin Banks on the ropes. And Derrick Roddy, not a lot of steam left on his punches, Arnie. He's really arm punching right now.
And unfortunately, that's been the rap for most of the fight. His best punches in the fight were the right uppercut, and he only landed it twice. I think he only threw it twice. That's the crazy part. When he threw it, it landed. Banks right hand, double right hand lead. Dancing right now, Buddy McGirt in Derrick Banks' corner for the first time, screaming to him. You only got 30 seconds. Dance around, stay on the outside. They feel they've got this fight won, or to use your pun, John, in the banks. Nice left hook drops in just for good measure here as we're coming to the end of the fight.
Derrick Banks just needs to jab and move away.
There's the final bell, referee Jimmy Condon. Tells the fighters that's it. Unofficially, I got it 78-75. Derrick Banks, how'd you see it, John?
77-75.
Miguel Diaz did a fantastic job. And once again, we have to mention the fight that he just did with Stevie Johnson against John Baptiste Mendy for the lightweight championship. Bad cut on Stevie Johnson. And Miguel Diaz did a fantastic job, kept Stevie Johnson in the fight, had him win the world title. That was over in Paris this past Saturday. Now he did a terrific job on both eyes of Derrick Banks. There's Dick Wood.
Yeah, Miguel Diaz really had his work cut out. He not only had the left eye swollen, he had the right eye cut up above the eyebrow.
Just amazing.
We were teasing him before the show. We see Miguel so many places. We call him the Ed McMahon of boxing. He shows up everywhere.
I got it.
My door with that $10 million check.
Week before, he was working Mike McCallum's corner as the head trainer for McCallum's fight against James Toney, and almost pulled off a minor miracle there. Where Toney got his second wind, I don't know. He always can surprise you. Roddy's got to really be thinking
Five
now.
in
That's
a row.
five losses in a row. Again, unofficial at this point. Still a close fight, nevertheless. And we had it unofficially for Derrick Banks, waiting for the official.
You know, Derrick Roddy didn't have a great 1995 either. He got stopped twice. Lost a 4-rounder to Will Hinton. So he is really on the downside of his career.
Boxing fans, after 8 rounds of tremendous heavyweight boxing, let's have a big hand for both warriors. Judge Ed Leahy scores it 79 Banks, 73 Roddy. Judge Eugene Grant scores the fight even at 76. And the final judge casting the vote, Emil Conforti, 78-74 for the winner by majority decision, Banks. Banks.
All right, they had it 78-74, 79-73, and one judge had it even, John.
It was all over the board. If you throw our 2 scores in, nobody had it the same.
Nobody had it the same.
I think it was
Nevertheless, Derrick Banks, he improves to 12-2. That's his 6th win in a row, and Derrick Roddy goes down to 17-11.
Exactly how we do it.